Well, the beginning of my session. So, social emotional learning is such a big deal, and KET has put together a wonderful collection. And it's not complete. There are things that are still being added, some resources, but we've got lots of video and supplementary materials for you. There will be two collections, a mental health collection and then social emotional learning activities that you can use across the curriculum. But we're focusing on the arts because we feel that that's the best way to approach this. So I'm going to show you a really quick clip that gives an example. This is How Art You? And I'm going to just hit play. This is PBS Learning Media, by the way, in case you've never seen this before. So,
Hi, I'm Derek, and I work here at the Speed Art Museum. Today we're going to play a game where we use art and not words to communicate how we're feeling. So first thing I want you to do is find a partner and then decide who's player one and who's player two.
I'll be one, I guess. I'm okay with it. Okay, I'm player two.
Once you've got that, I want you to sit so you can't see each other.
I can see you on flip, but I'll just.
Now, player one, I want you to do something hard here. I want you to think about how you're feeling, how you're really feeling. Like do a full systems check and describe how you're feeling right now. So do more than just saying, I'm good or I'm fine or I'm tired. Really, really think about how you're feeling. So for example, I'm feeling excited about this game. I'm feeling a little nervous. I don't know how it's going to go. And I'm feeling happy to be working with a lot of good people here. Okay, so once you've got that, player one, what I want you to do is don't say any of those words to player two. Instead, I want you to draw a sketch of how you're feeling. Don't use any words, just images that illustrate how you're feeling. I'll give you about 10 minutes to do that. Now, once you've done that, player one and player two, I want you to come together. And player two is simply going to ask, how are you feeling?
Brother, how are you feeling? I'm feeling happy, cheerful, worried, excited, and I guess those are all. Yeah.
Now, player two's job is to then, without using any words, draw a picture that shows that you heard what they said. I'll give you about 5 minutes to do that. Now, when player two is finished, I want you to show your two sketches to each other and then find out, how are they the same? How are they different? Are there any similarities?
2, 1. Don't judge me. That was the best. So Ryan, you know I always it's like my signature, one of my initials. And I was also, the crowd's God, so just in the mood. This window, you know how it's not see-through, it's kind of blacked out, like hidden, like you can't see what's outside. I was just trying to express the emotion, happy, but like in a bubble. See how it's not outside the bubble, I guess. Yeah. That's all it is really. But I'm happy, but you can also see the darker tones. I guess that's it. And the hearts, of course. I'm still alive. Yeah, you've seen that before. But that's it. Okay. You said you were, what did you say? You said you were nervous / you said something else. Chill, playful, worried, but worried. Okay, so that's why I drew the dark sky. It's not as light as playful, cheer. I tried to sound like doing it, but it's mostly dark because it's the hidden part. But because no one really looks that much at the sky. But okay, so that's the sky. And then you chilled out. I was gonna draw a rainbow right there to show your happiness, like you was watching the sunset. Exactly, but I can't do that because I have a dog. And then your dog, because you can play outside with your dog, even if you don't have one. But I know you always draw dogs. So that's why I did that. I did the tree just for the dogs, so they felt that you were happy still, that you like playing outside of it. It was just a fun time. I actually understand why you drew that because that looks playful, that looks happy. I would have drawn that probably if I wasn't thinking out of the.
okay, I'm going to stop it right there. I just think that's such a fabulous way to have students share their emotions. And in this pandemic, we have learned so much about what students need, and a cultural responsiveness, and how we can change the scope of the way things have been going lately. And really, we need to address emotions. So the collection, the mental health and social emotional learning, these are all linked from my slide deck. But we've got what are ACEs, and that's adverse childhood experiences. Got some links about the community, racial trauma, stress in the body. Then the next one is, oops, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry. Let me pull that down real quick so I can get back. And then the next one has the, these are coming soon. What is SEL? SEL in the pandemic. And then you've got schools experiences, and there's one in Boone County. But today we are going to hear from the group from Owsley County that did the story circle link. So these are the learning activities. You just watched this one. There's another from the speed. I see, I think, I wonder. But the story circle, we're going to learn about right now. And I'm going to go on and turn it over to Miss Nolan and her students so that we can learn more about their approach and what they did during the pandemic.
All right, hello everybody. I am a teacher here at Owsley County. I'm pretty much the only arts teacher in the district, and so my name is Stevi Nolan, and I've been here. This will be my 8th year at Owsley, and I have a few people with me that I would love to introduce here in just a second. We're going to do a check-in. Usually, what we would do anytime we met, either online or in person, is just every time check in with every single person that was in the group. And then we would also have a checkout, which we'll do today. And so I'm just asking them to share their name, and students just their first name, their grade they're going into if they're a student, and then the role they played in this Shiners project, which was live on Zoom. And if you all want the link, I will post the link to the actual project that we did online in the chat box here in a little bit. So I'm just going to let a quick introduction check in, and Frankie, I'm gonna kick it to you if you want to check in first for me.
Hi, sorry about that. Here I am. I'll just check in and say hi. I'm really excited to be here today. I worked with Miss Nolan and the school, and I was also one of Miss Nolan's students a few years ago. So I'm really looking forward to being able to share what we're doing today.
Okay, can I have Malia? Can you go ahead and check in?
Hi, everyone. I'm Malia Thomas. I was the Gear Up counselor at Owsley County High School during the project, and I worked with Miss Nolan on the theater and doing the media.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rachel Heisel. My role in the Shiners during the online production, I really didn't get to help a whole lot. But since then, when we came back in the spring and we started coming back in person, I actually got the opportunity to collaborate with Miss Nolan with my English classes and start getting them thinking about theater and really expressing themselves and those kind of things as we all kind of start working towards that social emotional health. And I also had the opportunity to this summer start working on the Shiners and helping that live production get started, and kind of seeing it from the virtual production to the live production, kind of moving forward and working with edits and formatting of the script and things like that. So it's nice to meet you all.
All right, so now we're going to introduce our students, and I'm just going to kind of go with my screen here. So Mariah, I have you first on here on my screen.
Hi, my name is Mariah. I'm going into 11th grade, and I worked on any digital art you see in the Shiners, and I also was the cop.
Okay, Keaton.
Hi, my name is Keaton Barrett. I'm going to be a senior, and I handled an acting role within our little project.
Hi, my name is Allison, but everybody calls me Allie. I'm going to be a junior this year, and I was an actor in the Shiners, and I also worked with visual arts and sound design.
Hello, everybody. My name is Aaron Napier, and my role for the Shiners is I was an actor.
Hi, my name is Creasy. I'm going into the 11th grade and I was an actor.
All right. I think I got everybody. If I miss you, please speak up and yell at me. Miss Nolan always forgets things, as they can tell you. So, all right. I want to start out just by talking, like she said, about the story circles. We were able to kind of brainstorm and come up with a lot of the story, the bulk of the Shiners, by the students actually participating in these circles with, I guess, theater artists we work with numerous times in the past years, Bob Martin. And I want to share a little clip that he led with our students on, and we actually completed a story circle, but he tells a little bit about the history of story circles and gives credit to his mentors, which I just think it's best from him. And so I will share that with you right now. It's also in the KET, the educational website that I just shared. And so she can give you those links as well. So let me go ahead and share this with you. And if you know Bob, it's always wonderful to work with Bob. All right, here you go.
First, I want to give credit to my teachers where I learned this from. I learned this from my mentors and leaders in the alternate roots community throughout the South, Southern Artist Activist Organization, particularly the late, great John O'Neill from the Free Southern Theater and Junebug Productions. This work goes all the way back to the Civil Rights Movement. John was a great artist and activist, worked with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee during the Civil Rights Movement, and carried this work with the Free Southern Theater with Dr. Doris Derby and Gilbert Moses on into the development of Junebug Productions, and John's relationship with Roadside Theater out of Whitesburg, Kentucky and Letcher County is legendary. Roadside has done this work all throughout Eastern Kentucky and throughout Appalachia. The Highlander Center in Newmarket, Tennessee has used this work for decades, and alternate roots is where I picked this up through many, many people. And obviously Story Circle is an ancient technology, people sitting around a fire sharing stories. And this is a way in which that technology is being used so that a group of people can build off of each other's stories, and we can build something together to go from the individual story to the group and community story. So that's where we're coming from. And I want to share some of the ground rules for this. Are you guys all with me? Thumbs up.
Okay, so this was from a video that we did with Bob toward the end of school this year. And we're going to let Frankie Joe take over. And let me stop sharing. We're going to have our own little story circle. And I really would like some of you in the audience to participate and join Frankie's story circle. She'll go over the rules just like Bob was going to. And if you don't care, just in the chat box, if you would participate, it's not gonna be very long. I think she said 10 minutes max. And so I know some of my students are going to fill in, but I would love to have some of you all in the circle. So if you could just kind of put in the chat box if you're willing to participate. You always learn more when you participate. We know this as teachers.
That's right.
I'm going to watch the chat box for a minute.
Awesome. We already got 2 people, 3. Awesome. Okay. And I realized that earlier I didn't do a good job of introducing myself. So I said that I used to be one of Miss Nolan's students. I'm a teacher now in Lexington, and I teach Spanish, and I also do theater work for my school. So just to give a little bit more background. So just like Bob, he was highlighting and lifting up a lot of people there. So I'm going to continue doing that. I learned this process from him, actually. But I'd also like to start by referencing a book that I found just to be incredibly influential and helpful, and that is called Spider Speculations. And the subtitle to that book is Physics and Biophysics of Storytelling, and that's by Joe Carson. And I'll put that in the chat when I finish, so if anybody wants to check that out. But just to quickly give you an idea of that book, she just talks about her community-based work and storytelling, and how and what happens when you use real stories in a real public way, like community theater. So if anybody, if you want to read that book, I highly recommend it. It's great all the way through. I know we don't have a lot of time today, so I'm just going to jump right into this. Yes, I already see some people participating, so that's awesome. Ms. Nolan got us started there. So I'm going to start with some of these rules. I think that there's several, and there's probably some implied rules here, right? But first thing is, what is said in the circle stays in the circle, right? We don't want anybody leaving the circle and telling these stories outside, okay? Or what stays in the room, you know, we want to uphold that. Also, that every story that's told today is valuable and important, and just equally as important as the others. And of course, you don't have to share, but by participating, we're really encouraging you to share. And what Bob would say is share from that deepest part of yourself and the real story. And I know that it's hard if you've been asked to speak the whole time everybody else is speaking. Your instinct is to go, oh my gosh, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? But I'm going to try to encourage everybody to not do that and really focus on active listening. So when somebody else is presenting or sharing their story, really be there and listen to that story, because what you may find is that what they say may prompt you to tell an entirely different story than you expected to share. I know that's happened to me several times, and to some of the other students who've been in this story circle session, I'm sure they could say that. When you hear the word or the prompt or the question, you think, oh, I know exactly what I'm going to share. But then what's shared by those before you might really change what you want to talk about. So when Miss Nolan asked me to do this, I quickly thought about George Ella Lyon, which I'm sure most of you know. So she wrote a beautiful poem called Where I'm From, and she really uses her senses to quickly and very beautifully really describe where she's from, right? And I'm sure that we can all recall a memory that is tied to a specific sense. So I want to just practice that as a check-in really quickly. So let's start with smell. In the chat, just write me, let's see, a smell that takes you back to an important moment in your life. And you can just send a quick message if you'd like, just a smell that really brings you back to an important moment. So for me, it might be the wood burning stove in my grandma's living room. If you can't think of a smell, you can give us a taste. Some of mine are blue snow cones or pickled eggs or garden fresh tomatoes. Great, we're getting a lot of good ones. The smell of lilies, ginger, honeysuckle, newborn babies' heads, baking a cake. Ooh, I see newborn baby again. Fall, the smell of fall. So we're getting a lot of great ones, okay? So just like that, you've evoked a memory, and there's a story attached to that memory somewhere. So I know that some of you guys have agreed to be kind of thrown into the fire, and that's really awesome because you don't even know what I'm going to ask you to share just yet, but I see everybody's already putting in the hard work with these scents. So I'm going to go back up to our group here who said that they would be in. I'm going to read those names. So I see Faith McCowan, Cynthia Warner, Kate Barrows, Sarah Nevitt, and Rachel Heisel, and Jasmine. Okay, and then can I get one or two of our students to volunteer? I see Chrissy and Aaron and Keaton and Mariah and Allie. Can I get one or two of you guys? Allie, awesome. Thank you, Allie. Can I get one more? Folgers Coffee. One more. What about Chrissy or Aaron or Keaton? Awesome. Thank you, Keaton. Okay, so a lot of times when you start a story circle, you can pick if you want to ask a question or pick a theme or a topic. So I really thought about what I wanted to pick, and I thought about moonshiners, and I thought about strength and water and community, but I kept coming back to this healing and cleansing quality of water. So for this topic, we're going to focus on that word, water. So it's kind of metacognitive, but what do you think about when you think about water? So think of those senses, right? Taste, touch, smell, hearing, vision, okay? So those of you that I've called your names that have agreed to speak, I want you to just think about water for a moment. And if nothing comes to mind, think about where was a time when water was an important role in your life, or when your community, there was something happened around water, okay? Think about that. I'm gonna give everybody just a couple seconds to think about that. And when we start, I'm going to give every person 1 minute to speak. Okay. You don't have to use that whole minute, but you have up to that whole minute. And I will kind of make a look, or I might hold my finger up when you've got just a little bit of time left. Okay. Because we want to be mindful that everybody can share. So I'm going to give just a few more seconds, and whoever in that group feels like they'd like to share their story first, you're just going to start sharing. And I'd like everybody else just to really lean into that and listen. And we'll just take a pause after that story is over, and whoever feels the next story come up, you can share that story. Remember that you probably already have a story in your head, but be open to being encouraged by a different story from whatever the first person says. Is there anybody that's really has a story off the top of their head that they would like to start?
I could start.
Great. Thank you.
So for me, water is life. We have a lot of pollution and runoff that is polluting our water, ground source water, and it's very frightening. But personally, I have nighttime panic attacks, and water is the only thing that can bring me out of them. So that is my life source, because I come from in the middle of the night, going from deep sleep into a serious panic. And I could be standing even on my bed, going from lying down to standing, and I have to have water to pull me out. So it's important for life. And that's all.
Thank you.
I don't mind to go next, Frankie, if you want me to.
Great, thank you.
So when I think about water, I think of for me, I think of the presence of God. So I think about this idea of living water and God being living water to me and my family. So I think about peace, and I think of calm, and I think of grace, and I think about an abundance of those things when I think about water. And so that's typically what resonates. And so all the good and the beauty and the awesome that is God and comes from God is kind of what I think about when I think about water.
Thank you. Does anybody have a special memory that's coming up, or a thought that's related to that, maybe a time in your life?
I do. My family was from Iowa, and I would go back to my aunt and uncle's house, and I always loved the smell and taste of well water. And with going back to the city, I crave well water for weeks after I come back. And anytime I see an old well somewhere, I have to stop and get a drink. It takes me back to my childhood that I love so much.
Sure. So when I think of water, I kind of think of that kind of just joy renewal. It kind of, just like it does with our bodies, it fills us up. So I spent the first week when we got out of school at the ocean with friends, and just sitting on the beach and just soaking it in, and getting in the water and the joy of the waves. I just really felt like filled up after I left, and hopefully that will kind of sustain me going forward until I can get back to that wild water.
Thank you.
Memories of going to the beach and going. There's this memory that always has stuck with me. When I was little, we had a sinkhole in our backyard, and my dad had filled it up with rocks, try to fill it in. And every time it would rain, our backyard would, because it was a hill, it was the bottom of a hill, it would fill up with water. So it would create this like pond. And so we would go out and swim in it. And it always made me think of, there was a storybook, and he was a giant, and he had a giant umbrella, and he filled it with water, and everyone jumped in and started swimming, and probably it's going to come to somebody, but I can't think of the title. But it always made me feel like that we were in some big umbrella, and we were swimming around, and it was there temporarily, and then it would go away. So I always have that memory.
Thank you.
When I think of water, 75% of adults suffer from dehydration in this country. And that's like drinking only 2.5 cups a day on an average of water. So I know that when I drink water constantly each day, and I encourage my students to do it because it is healthy and it keeps you from being dehydrated. So we have a lot of people out there walking around that are dehydrated and that don't even realize it.
Yeah, thank you.
Allie said she could go.
Allie, you ready?
Yeah. So whenever I think of water, the first thing that comes to mind is fishing, because a lot of us do that a lot around here. And whenever I think of fishing, I automatically think of my papa, because whenever he was around, we used to do it all the time, and we would go several times a summer. And he just loved it, and that was his happy place. And like, he could have had a horrible day, and if we were like, let's pack everything up and go fishing, it would immediately made him feel so much better. And so it's kind of bittersweet, I guess, to attach such a strong memory to water. But it just reminds me of him whenever I think about it. So
Thank you. Yeah. Is there anybody that was in our group that had volunteered that hasn't gotten to speak yet? I want to make sure that every voice is heard. Okay, and I'm going to jump into the story circle. What Allie said about fishing really reminded me of summers with my younger brothers. There wasn't a lot to do. There still isn't a lot to do where I grew up. And so something that we did and that we didn't know until we were grown that we did, that also our grandparents did because they lived in the same area, is we would go to what we called the Wallace Hole, which is a little spot down at one of my neighbors' houses, and we would fish there. And my brothers would jump off of the top of the creek sort of and into the water. I was always too scared to, but they always jumped in. And even today I have pictures of my brothers doing cannonballs and making funny faces to the camera and jumping into that water in front of my neighbor's house. But I can remember putting my toes in and watching the minnows, and I would bring things to feed if there were any little ducks or anything down. It was a really small area, but we really loved that. And I always have had a really big fear of water, but at that place, I didn't have that fear, and it was just encapsulated, and that was kind of my safe spot. So that's my closing with water. So now for just a brief moment, I just want to hear about maybe just a little bit of crosstalk. I think we're starting to run short on our time just for this part, but if anybody would like to share maybe what was a theme that you noticed coming up more often than you thought, or something that you felt was special or that you noticed about that very short story circle. If anybody that was in our circle would like to share. Maybe, go ahead.
Kind of when we're sharing, I kind of see like common themes. I think about the idea of family, the idea of life, the idea of, almost belonging in relation to that idea of water. So that seemed like a pretty reoccurring theme.
Yeah, thank you. Did anybody find themselves sharing something that they had no intention of sharing, maybe?
I did, because, and then thinking about it, water is life, water is comforting, water can be scary at the same time too for people, but it all connects us in some way or fashion that we really don't even think about.
That's true, thank you. Yeah, I'm going to lift up what Ms. Thomas said in the chat just now. Water cleanses the soul as well as the body. I think that's really important. So thank you to those of you that participated and those of you that maybe sent messages in the chat, and everybody that just listened and were active listeners in that process. So thank you. And that's kind of how you would start the process of something that we did like the Shiners. And I will pass it back to Ms. Nolan for the next segment, the next part.
Thank you, Frankie. You were awesome. Much more than I expected, and you did wonderful. And so, if you want to thank Frankie, I think that's just just above and beyond. And like I said, she was one of my past students. I'm so proud of what she has become and who the woman she is, and she's a teacher. And so I love that. I want to shift gears a little bit now, thinking about these stories we were able to gather from our students when we were working on the Shiners. So we had this kind of collaborative story circle where we shared our personal stories, but then they became a community story because we saw like you said, the relationships between the stories. We saw where they were kind of crossing back and forth, and the students saw other students that they didn't really know have similar experiences to them. And I want to be able to share that now through media, which was our goal, was to create actually a live theater, but now it became technology on Zoom because we were in the pandemic. And Miss Malia really was our leader when it came to the visual artwork and media in that way. So we couldn't see the people on stage. We had to create it to give the visual and to give the characters life through a picture, moving picture, or just simple digital art with Mariah. And I'm going to let Malia lead a little bit about the now creating the media for our stories that we had shared.
All right, thank you, Miss Nolan. I kind of came into the Shiners project a little bit later on. We had started at school working with Bob, and I was there a few times after they had gone through the story circles. But by the time I came on board, they had already gotten the play together. And then the COVID pandemic hit, and we were working from home. So everything being on Zoom, and we were trying to read the script, and the actors were trying to make a radio production or like a radio play that you listen to. And I was listening in, and I was like, we really need some type of something you can see, and it actually helps them to pull into the character. So while they were reading and I was listening, I was making sketches because I was originally going to help them with costume design. And I was thinking, well, this would be like how I would do costumes. There's sketches with the likenesses of the students who are playing the roles. And then it became, okay, this sketch of them by the river, and they can see the river, and grandpa's there, and everyone has their fishing pose, and they're sitting on crates, and they can see the flannel. And then when Mom Virginia comes in, we can see what she looked like whenever they were small, and it was the last memory they have of her, and compare it to the way that things are now whenever she comes back into the scene. But really just making these sketches help the students to get a little bit more of the connection of where they were, and it helped them to develop their characters more. But even more importantly, because I really wanted it to be student led, it helped the students to see, hey, Miss Thomas is just making simple sketches, so my art can be just as important. And then Mariah, who is extremely talented, came in with her digital art. And so we used a lot of work from the students. And I think Allie contributed a self-portrait, and there was a canvas art of just hands playing the guitar that we used in there. And it really helped the students to bring in their own talents and made the production all that much more enjoyable and able for everyone to connect to it. Also, whenever we had the pictures, we had a sound crew, and they could look at the sketches and go on with the media. It's like, okay, this needs sound effects of crickets. And so Miss Nolan would be like, okay, sound crew, go out at night and just record the sounds of the woods that are around you. Or we're going to have a bonfire and we need to hear the crackling of the fire in the background. Or we need water pouring here, or we need to hear the river rustling, and things like knocking at the door, and just general sounds, and everything made the production so much better than what it was. And it just simply started from listening to them, going through everything, and trying to see what we could do to enhance it as much as we possibly could.
Great, thank you, Malia. I hear there's some questions about what is the Shiners. So I don't know how much backstory you knew about the project that Owsley students and Frankie Joe and also Lily Rice from Berea, Bob Martin, Judy Sizemore, a writer and arts consultant that we have worked on. It has almost been 2 years that we had started this gigantic work. And during COVID, when Cynthia asked me to talk today, the focus was about our project that we did online over Zoom during the pandemic, and which was something that we're going to talk about in just a minute, that it helped the social emotional learning while they were in this crazy world on their own and isolated from each other. And the story is about some young people. It is fictional, and so, but we had stories that we shared from the story circles that really had real aspects to life in Owsley County for today, for teens and for adults, and they wanted to be able to communicate their feelings and their thoughts and share things that the teenagers, the youth felt important, that they wanted everybody to see it through their eyes. We had done some home song productions in the past, and we just felt like, and I say we loosely because it's more students than me, felt like that the Shiners needed to be created to give the youth perspective. I think that the other ones were more from an older or an adult perspective, and so that's where this was created. So I'm sorry that there's a little confusion there when Malia was talking, but that's what the story is that we're discussing. So I wanted to send it to Mariah just for a minute, Mariah, and you can share maybe some of your experiences with the digital artwork creation for the Shiners.
There's a lot of flaws in some of the technology that we use, and we had to work around it and stuff. For example, what tablet I used to work on the digital drawings and stuff. There was a lot of times where I had to push deadlines and stuff to get things done right then and there, so it can be put into the scenes in time and stuff. And also,
talk about maybe, like you said, the deadlines. I would send Mariah an email or something saying, we need this scene. We need something to represent this character. And so we'll need it by tomorrow or something. So talk about that, Mariah.
Having to push the deadlines and stuff, it was a big challenge, really. Beforehand, I had terrible time management, and it kind of built that skill, if you know what I mean. And also it kind of wrecked my sleep schedule, but at the end it seemed to have been worth it. And beforehand, I was working on character design, I think it was, and I had to make drafts digitally of who I would what I'd think these characters would look like based on their personality. All these designs has to reflect how they act in the play, their dialogue, etc. And I think that was nonetheless a fun experience.
All right, thanks, Mariah. Okay, so we're gonna move forward. I'm gonna send it to Rachel. I know we're running short on time. So Rachel, we're gonna focus a little bit more on the social emotional aspects of this, which really was throughout the whole process. And so Rachel, I will send this to you.
So we know that social emotional learning and health has been one of those key terms that we keep hearing in education lately, especially after, COVID hit and students have been isolated. They haven't had as much opportunity to interact with each other or even their teachers. And it's been a very interesting dynamic. More students are socially isolated than ever before, even despite maybe, games and phones and television and all those things. And so when we think about social and emotional learning and well-being, we're thinking about a student's ability to socialize, to be able to emotionally express themselves, to feel free to express themselves, but then know how to express themselves effectively in a way that is appropriate. And to do so, we typically think about being able to show and model and give students, warmth, affection, and not just students, but peer to peer as well. Give them respect, empathy, as well as establish expectations. And so it's really important that we're able to, during this time, show those things, model those things, have those discussions with students. And so the Shiners, everything kind of stemmed from those story circles that they had. And it was really a place for students during a very interesting time to be able to express themselves, to share their stories, to talk about, those themes that went throughout families and throughout groups, and for the teachers within that setting to kind of validate their stories and respect their stories. And so everything kind of stemmed from that to set up the Shiners itself. And we keep coming back to those conversations. So as we think about moving ahead to the fall, it's still going to be about, showing that respect, that empathy, that warmth, that affection, validating students, letting them know that their voice matters, that their opinions matter, and that their stories matter. And so there's definitely a focus, and will continue to be a focus on that social emotional health, as well as learning for students and, of course, educators.
That's great, Rachel. Thank you. Since we're running real short on time, I do want to send it to the students now, just for them to share just a second. And I told them to keep it under a minute. So if we can do it really quickly, that would be great. Just a place where they had to grow, either socially or emotionally, through challenges with the Online Shiners production. So I'm going to just start with Allie, if you don't care to start for me.
No, I can start. One way that I had to grow, and I had to grow kind of quick when working on the Shiners, was in my, the word Miss Nolan used was coping mechanisms. And so the kind of person I am, I rely a lot on other people for encouragement and affirmation and just building myself up. And so having to be online and kind of remote, it made things like that very difficult because it was through a screen or it was over the phone. And if you're like me, it's just not the same. So through working with the Shiners online, I have developed a lot more independent confidence and being able to build myself up all on my own, which has become very helpful. So doing that online just helped me to be more independent in that way.
Awesome. Thank you, Allie. Can we go to Erin?
So for me, mine is acceptance, because when I found out in March that everything was closing down because of COVID, I was very upset and devastated that everything was closing, because students, especially theater, students will have to go through a lot of changes for school, online schooling, not doing school face-to-face with students and teachers. I knew from that moment, I found out we all have to accept that everything was closing. We have to accept that we can't be face-to-face and doing online schooling. We have to accept that this will be our new routine for a year and a half. For theater, it was very hard to do theater on Zoom, but we all have to accept that online Zooming with technology We'll be theater for a while. And our students in theater and the teachers, we all did not give up. And we kept trying to create the Shiners through Zoom. We all can't just complain and worry about it. Move on in life. But we have to do that routine. But we did it and it was successful.
Thank you, Erin. All right. Can we go to Keaton?
Yeah. From doing Zoom theater, I really got this great streak of creative confidence back in acting and other like social arts, and it gave me something to do when we were put in lockdown and like we were locked up for countless months, and I feel like having like a project like that, especially a school project, is really fun, and it really gave something and gave some meaning to that time. Like we made progress when everything was shut down, and I think that I'm looking very confident going into working on the final product in the fall.
Awesome. Thank you, Keaton. Let's see, Mariah, do you want to share just a short growth that you had?
One thing that I had to grow in during all of that was patience, because we were basically thrown into a whole different world because we couldn't really make use of what we would have done before, like being able to talk in person and stuff, and having to like do it on over the computer is two entirely different things. And it definitely like put a burden on like what the play was originally supposed to be, which was a live action thing. So we ended up having to record everything, draw out everything, and we just had to make use of what we had at the time. And also we had to just be patient with what we had in order to make any progress, which we did, and it was amazing.
All right, Chrissy, I think you're my last one.
I would definitely say social anxiety. And I know it's weird because I do go off other people, but the thing for me is that when we started after COVID and everything, we were basically shoved into like, hey, you still got school and you still have to do this, but you have to grow from that. So my anxiety was really high, I'd say, when we first started, definitely, because I wasn't used to talking to certain people, like, and just talking to people that are not from Owsley, that I've not grown up with. So I think that I've grown a lot and just become like more talkative to other people that I've never really met. And also that I think that every student has grown definitely, and that I have grown as a person to become more out there and just have like more fun and be really talkative and just to grow more, I guess, as a person and be more talkative.
Thank you, Chrissy. All right, so I know we're really close or past time, but I wanted to share just the end of the Shiners with you, and this will give you a little sneak peek into it. This was where Cletus, who is the younger brother in the story, finds strength in himself in a way to shine. And it also gave the students a voice to share each line that they wrote personally in a connection with Cletus. So they saw part of themselves in this Cletus character. So I will share this to end our session. And let me get this up here. There's so much more we wanted to share, but time just it goes by so fast. If anybody wants to has any questions or anything later, feel free to email me. All right. So we're at the fair, the Owsley County Fair, and Cletus is being introduced.
Cletus is a junior at Owsley County High School and would like to recite an original poem.
Hey y'all. I can't play any instruments like my brother, but I figured I could write pretty good. So I'm going to share this with y'all. I'm from fishing at the river with my brother.
I used to fish a lot with my family, especially my Aunt T. We got a river and a field at my house. It is a very beautiful place and special too.
I'm from my pa, who taught us how to fish. He's pretty much my dad. Man, I sure miss him.
I sure miss you boys too. Keep up that good work.
I'm from a moonshiner's life, up all night.
I've spent many hours playing drums and guitar, the life of a musician.
I'm from staying home and getting in trouble for it.
And I'm here to get them out of trouble.
I'm from a family that has flaws.
I'm from a not so perfect life, but I can enjoy what I can.
I'm from bad decisions.
I'm a pro at making bad decisions, like staying up all night scrolling through TikTok and doing some things left.
I'm from a brother who raised me.
A brother who raised himself and his little brother when the entire world turned its back on them.
I'm from lonely nights with no one to talk to.
I use art to express myself and show how hard I can work. I'm a painter, a photographer, and a musician.
I'm from riding the big ones at the fair.
I'm the one that's ready to ride all the big rides till I throw up. The one who has to beg others just to get them to ride with me.
I'm from trouble that follows me wherever I go.
I'm from staying over at friends' houses while staying up all night.
I'm from making movies about my crazy life.
I'm from drumming like crazy and sometimes getting yelled at.
I'm from an uncle who left me behind.
I came into life with not a lot of hope, and I'm trying to be in a family I never had.
From missing a mom that found her way back.
I'm from a mom that is gone, that has left and came back just to do it all over again.
I'm from friends helping us when we need it.
When I lost my papa, all my friends were there, gathering my schoolwork, taking notes, helping me keep up. Even when I left class crying, my friends stayed by my side.
I'm from new beginnings.
New beginnings are inevitable for everyone. Change happens easily. From a new job to a birth of a new family member, they are all new beginnings.
I'm from hard times and work. I'm from being left with nothing but friendship, love for my family, and hope. Hope that where I'm from, no matter where I am, I'll always have a family by my side. So yeah, I'm from an amazing family that cares. I'm from the hope of kindness. I'm from a place of life, darkness, light, and family. That's where I'm from.
Okay. So there's just a little peek at the Shiners, and I hope you all enjoyed it. I know we're past time now, so like I said, if you want to reach out to the Shiners or about any of the Zoom theater that we had, I would love to share. I'm sure my students would love to share more with you all. So I'm gonna send this back to Cynthia. I know she needs to close up, and we will have to forego our checkout because of time. So students, if you want to share your checkout answer in the chat box, that would be awesome. I just told them to remember our last day of school when we got to present this for the first time, and we had principals, guest artists, parents, other teachers online to watch it, and you can share that emotion they had that last day of school, which was actually almost a normal last day of school in the pandemic, because we had such a celebration. And so students, if you would share that in the chat box instead of out loud, I think that's what we'll have to do. So Cynthia, I'm gonna turn it back over to you.